How did the idea for the star-faced crocodile first come about?
Well, it started actually initially as a visit to my daughter's school. I went along for about an hour's visit. And then the teacher, who was very enthusiastic and very infectious with her energy and ideas, and she said, let's make up a quick story and we'll finish it when you've gone. So I thought that's a great idea. So I started to write a list, elicit some characters from the kids. But the first suggestion was a star-faced crocodile, which was amazing. I was expecting a sort of a dog or a cat or something like that. As soon as they mentioned it, I had this vision, I have to say immediately, this image came to me of a crocodile just below the surface in the water with the reflection of a star above its face, so it looked like he had a star-faced crocodile. It's just something that came into my mind as I wrote down a star-faced crocodile. Anyway, after that came the dog, the cat, and a bit of a setting. We talked about a setting, talked about woods, in the castle in the woods and things like that. And then we had this long list, and at the end of the hour, it was really interesting. And so the idea was that they would finish the story, and that was the visit. But when I went away, I really did think there was something there. The teacher, with a twinkle in her eye, said, if you would like to come back, that would be lovely. And the visit was so good, and the added bonus was my daughter, was in the class. So I just felt that there was something there. So I played around with sort of some of the ideas, and we did initially during that hour make up a few possible scenarios. I mean, there was a unicorn in it. There were lots of characters, probably too many in fairness. There's a unicorn, an abstract thing called a flower puzzle. So all these things, we had these ideas, so I went away and just worked this idea up. And so, yeah, I decided I would go back.
So it became a kind of project then, and you went back over a period of time. Can you tell us more about the activities you did with the children and what you did to inspire them?
What I decided to do was to really approach the idea of writing a story with the kids in the same way as I would. And I always use a sketchbook to start familiarising myself with some of the characters and developing story ideas from those drawings. And what I did with the children here's an example of, we split the kids up into their tables and brought these big cards in. And I'd do a very quick scribbly drawing in the middle. I didn't want to get into too much detail because I didn't want to influence it too much. And that they would then, each table would have their own character. This is a tree. And then they would do their own drawing of the trees, and sort of four, maybe five even children to a page, if you like, with this card. And we'd spend one session doing that, session being 40 minutes or so. And over a few visits, they would do each of the characters, a cat, a dog, unicorn, trees. And so they experienced what I experienced, as I'd already spoken to them briefly about doing that, about using a sketchbook and just getting used to drawing that character and hopefully stimulating ideas for how the story may develop. So I did that, and then we soon went outside into the playground, and we did these large, very long rolls of paper, and again suggested by the energetic and enthusiastic teacher, we got the children to lie down and we traced around them and did these giant life-size trees, for example, and which was great fun. So each of the children became trees, and they each coloured them in and things like that. And so these were the things that, although we kept coming back to the story and developing the story idea, we would go off and do these fun events. I mean, again, there's 1 week we did papier-mâché crocodiles. I say 1 week, it took about 3, but it was quite a messy but very fun process of producing these own crocodiles. So we just sort of fanned out, but kept coming back and reminding ourselves that actually we were producing a story. Once they started doing these life-size trees, the music teacher saw them and thought, wouldn't it be great to do some sort of musical? And they did a 20-minute end-of-year assembly play, which was fantastic, with songs and, a version of the story. There was always a version of the story. There was a unicorn, a dog and a cat, and a castle, and all that going on. So they didn't always stick to the exact story, but they fanned out, and all these extra activities went along. So yeah, it was quite a journey.
So each of the children went home with their own picture book?
We reached that point where we thought that it would actually be really interesting for them to actually write and illustrate their own book. So we collectively wrote the story, but we thought it would be great for them to physically walk away from the experience with their own book. So we talked about the cover, the importance of the cover, and the images that you put on the cover are a clue to what's inside the story. We talked about the dedication page and how this functions as the title page of a book. So we really did explore the function of the book from the beginning, you know, the whole process. And then each child we broke the story down into 12 sections, which is the length of a picture book. And on each page, they would take a sentence or a paragraph, and they would illustrate that point. So I did talk to them about the process, what the function of the picture is on the same page as the words, so that they work together and hopefully tell the stories in the pictures as well as the words. They don't just support the words, they actually tell a story themselves.
How did the children's ideas evolve into your finished Star-faced crocodile?
I don't know when it was, but it was a good couple of months in. I thought, you know what, that would be really good to do my own story of this. And so I decided to just break it down and just do a crocodile and a bear. And I just picked up on some themes that I think were worth developing. The theme of friendship and being yourself, and it wasn't intentional, but there was an environmental theme that was suggesting itself in the story. So I picked up those elements and developed them myself, and then produced a story on there based on that. So it's a version of the Star-faced crocodile. So it was a joint project which then had to be pared down to make it work better and be more comprehensive as a story.
What did the children of St Nicholas think of the finished book?
Well, they were thrilled, as I was. I think it was the whole experience was just fantastic. It really was, you know, 3, 4, 5 months of such energy and enthusiasm and creativity, really. And it was, you know, unfortunately the way things are, books take about a year from by the time you complete it to actually get out there. So it took a long time for this book to come out. But I thought it would be nice for the children to contribute to some of the artwork. So the end papers are actually. Everyone in the class did their own drawing of a Star-faced crocodile, which was included on the end paper, which was quite nice. And of course, quite rightly so, I dedicated the book to the class and just gave a quick introduction as to how the story came about, really.
Did you learn anything yourself from the experience?
When I was in the class, the one thing that struck me very quickly, which was quite a surprise, is that children, even at 6 and 7, initially are quite inhibited by drawing. What was interesting is I think this process can start quite early, because at 6 and 7-year-olds, some of them were very worried about the drawing. Oh, it wasn't working properly, they didn't like what they were doing. And talking to the teacher, she was saying this process can start very early, because if you think as soon as they can pick up a pencil and they're learning to write, they're teaching learning how to write the alphabet. But then, of course, there's a right and a wrong way of writing the alphabet, and then learning to write. And this very subtle process can often carry across to drawing. When I was in the class initially with the drawing, there were definitely grumblings, and they weren't very happy with the drawing, and they were a bit inhibited and a bit tight. And having the luxury of time to revisit and go back, and they got to know me much more, of course, rather than a one-off visit where obviously you know, it's this strange author who comes in for an hour, and you know, you get volunteers to come up who are a bit giggly and shy. After a while, all those barriers are broken down, and very quickly they just loosen up, and this whole explosion of creativity was there. And it was fantastic to see that, and to realise that it doesn't take a lot for the inhibition to start, but at the same time it doesn't take a lot, hopefully, to shake it off and you know, really open up.